So welcome back to the second sessions. Seems like I'm going a little too slow. um, definitely we would not be able to finish. There is 187 verses, but definitely not this time. Next time, definitely I'll try to finish. Um, So we are in verse number 11 again. Same topic, why we shouldn't be attached because of 11. There's again the ordinary unenlightened childish peoples, how they can change easily, and when they change so easily, how our relations can change so easily, and so therefore we shouldn't have so much strong attachment and so forth. So here at 11, we say they are angry when something of benefit is said, and they also turn me away from what is beneficial. So as we mentioned before, sometimes we try to help them in order to try to help benefit them, but sometimes, due to misunderstanding, due to they are not ready to receive your help. Sometimes they feel they are not ready to receive help. They are not in situation to receive your help. And so in those situations, they get angry and upset instead for trying to help them. And not only that, sometimes also they turn us into from something beneficial. Sometimes you want to do something helpful, beneficial, and then maybe they are not encouragement of that. Instead, they might say, let's do something else, which might be just not such beneficials. And so again, in that, because of such relationships, sometimes we have to say no. We cannot say no, and this is what I want, and this is what I find beneficial, because in such a relationship. And if I do not listen to what they say, they become angry and hence proceed to the lower realms. And again, sometimes if we don't listen to them, they get upset that you don't pay attention, you don't listen to me, and you don't, because of that, then it means you don't care about me, you don't love me, and all of that. And then they feel upset, disappointed, angry. And because of that, again, when they are angry, upset, disappointed, and it also affects us. Then we also get affected by that, and maybe our mind might be disturbed, and then we might be also upset as well. And then in that relationship, then both create negative karma. Not only they experience pain in that moment, the mental anguish and the pain of that anger and all of that, but also create negative karma to take, rebirth in lower in the future as well. And so being attached to such a relationship and trying to hold such a relation so strongly, that attachment doesn't help, but also not only it doesn't help, it can be negative and harmful as well. And verse number 12, they say they are envious of superior, competitiveness with equal, and arrogant with inferior, conceit when praised, and if anything unpleasant is said, they become angry. Never is any benefit derived from the childish. So again, unenlightened, ordinary sentient beings, they are envious, jealous to those who have more, who are better than them, who are, and then those whom they feel kind of equal, then they feel competitiveness, and then those who they feel less than them, then they feel arrogant and treat them, look them down, treat them less in that way, And again, when we praise, and then again, they get, arrogant, or they get conceited, or they get delusional pride, So if you criticize, they get upset. Okay. If you criticize, they get upset. Then it makes them anger to arise. If you praise them, then again we encourage them to have sense of negative pride. And so in either way, and if you say anything unpleasant, something, you point their weakness, point their fault, and then they get angry. And so therefore, it's very difficult to make them happy and to get really much benefit from them, or a lot of benefit from them. And being that the case, we shouldn't be so attached to them. That is again the whole message. So therefore, again, you shouldn't be too attached to them. And 13, through associating childish, they will suddenly ensure unwholesomes, such as praising myself, belittling others, and discussing the joy of cyclic existence. So, basically it is saying, you try not to be attached with such beings, and you try to keep little distant physically, okay? Mentally, emotionally, you shouldn't distance them. You should have love, compassion for all sentient beings. You should have love and compassion for all sentient beings. But there are certain beings, if you are physically too close, they could influence you in a very negative way. And so in such beings, it's better to keep distant from such beings physically. Mentally, you try to keep them in love, compassion, but physically, sometimes it's better to kind of keep yourself a little distant, because that could have negative influence on you, And so here is saying 13, through associating with the childish, such beings, they will certainly ensure unwholesomeness, So because of their certain attitude, because of their certain mind, behavior, action, that could influence you to you yourself become more negative. You yourself become like them, and you yourself create more unwholesome, unhealthy, And unwholesome, what are the unwholesome? Unhealthy is something always praising yourself, being too self-important, belittling others, So that is something unwholesome, unhealthy. And if you are around such person all the time, physically, you could become like them. That could influence you, and you could also become like them, And also discovering the joy of cyclic existence, always thinking about samsaric things, samsaric pleasures, samsaric, and so again, when they always talk about samsaric entertainment, samsaric joy, samsaric, then you get distracted toward them. And then when you get distracted all of them, then you don't find the time to really focus on something that you find helpful and beneficial, such as our own Dharma study, practice, and so forth, And so therefore, again, we try to keep distant, physically distant, and not get so much attached to them. Developing myself to other in this way, if we try to, have a strong attachment developing a strong attachment with other beings in such a way, developing myself with others in this way with strong attachment and a strong attachment, then such relationship with such attachment will bring about nothing but misfortune, So when we develop such relationship with such attachments, then in the long term, it doesn't bring something meaningful, beneficial, but it only brings misfortune, more pain, more sufferings, because they will not benefit me and I shall not benefit them, when someone is always interested in praising themselves, being too selfish, belittling others all the time, only thinking and talking about samsaric pleasure, entertainment, and so forth, then, it is hard for them to really be meaningful benefit to yourself. They are unable to do something profound benefit. You cannot get much profound benefit from them. Nor when someone is interested so much in that, nor you can benefit them, even you try to benefit them. They are not interested. You try to talk about loving kindness, compassion, they are not interested. Someone like that. You try to talk about essenceless of these samsaric things and samsaric entertainment, pleasure. You try to talk about the benefit of liberation, mental peace. They are not interested. So you can't really be a great benefit to them either. You are unable to be great benefit to them either. Even you might have the intention to be great benefit to them, but they are not ready. They are not ready. And so therefore, when they are not ready, they cannot get the benefit, even you try to share. And so therefore, neither you can get greatest benefit from them, nor you are able to do great benefit to them. And therefore, in such situation, then here is say, it's better to kind of not get so attached to that, let go of attachments, and not to build any relationship with such attachments. And instead, you try to kind of keep the, kind of the distant, physically distant, so that you don't get influenced by that such things. Okay. And verse number 15, I shall flee far away from the childish people, and when they encounter, though I shall please them by being happy, I shall behave well merely out of courtesy and not becoming greatly familiar. Yeah. So here he's saying, so while you try to, and again, one thing we have to distinguish, two things. Distinguish, one, running away from the responsibility is one thing, okay? Because you don't want to take responsibility in the society, you don't want to take responsibility in the families, because you don't want to take responsibility here and there. So it is just trying to escape from that, just trying to escape from those responsibilities. That is not helpful, beneficial, meaningful, healthy. But it is not trying to escape from the responsibility, but trying to be away from there so that you can really improve yourself, so that you can give more, you can do better in the futures. And here it is saying is about that, So by seeing the meaningless of the samsara and samsaric relationship that is built on attachments, by seeing the shortcoming, meaningless of that, instead you are inspired to develop your mind, your heart, to become more enlightened, more compassionate, to have more wisdom, so that you can actually give more to the society, so you can be more beneficial and help to the society, to others. With that motivation, with that intention, then that is where you leave behind the samsaric busy life in order for that purpose. So that is very different from someone trying to just run away from the because they cannot take the responsibility or they are not ready, you know. So I think that is one I wanted to make clear. And so here you say, you know, so you leave the place where there is too much busyness and distractions to find more quiet, suitable place where you can contemplate, meditate better. And when you are in such environment, when you are, you know, seriously meditating, seriously practicing, and you know, when you encounter some people while you are walking or when you need to go outside and something, when you need that, again, he said, you know, you try to greet them, you know, greet them, smile, you know, say hi, you know. So instead of ignoring them, acknowledge them, greet them with smile, make them happy. But apart from that, don't try to be too, too close and too familiar, and try to get too much into uh, too much discussions and trying to know each other and trying to get too much familiarity. And then otherwise, again, you get distracted with this conversation. Then slowly that it builds up another different relationship. Then you get distracted with that, and again, you can lose your motivation, your path, and all of that. And so therefore, that is the advice here is giving when you are in that. And here he give a example in the 16th. In the same way as the bee take honey from the flower, you know, the bee take the essence from the flower, the sugar or whatever sweet, the essence from the flower, you know, but it doesn't remain there all the time. Once it take the essence and it, you know, without destroying the flower. In the same way, I should take merely what is necessary for the practice of Dharma and remain unfamiliar as though I have never seen them before, you know. So instead of, you know, if you see someone, if you meet someone, try to greet them with smile and with a kind compassion, but, you know, without any, whatever you need to get the necessary that you need to for your Dharma, the essence to practice and to develop your mind and yourself, you know, and then, you know, almost like, you know, that you, without getting too familiarity and without getting to know so deeply and spend too much time trying to understand, trying to that, you know, because that could be distractions. And again, next is, so that is more to do with attachment to the people, sentient beings. And now is dealing with the attachment to other, such as material things, you know, reputation, fame, materials, you know. Again, the distraction that we have during the meditations can be, you know, due to attachments and worry, because of that, worry about another beings, you know, loved ones, dear one. Or also sometimes it's not those, but sometimes it is about because of the attachment to the material things, fame, reputation, and so forth. So therefore, next 17, I have much material wealth as well as honor, you know, and many people like me, nurturing self. Important this way, I shall be made terrified after the death. So it is saying, you know, there's no reason to get attached to the material wealth, you know, craving and attachment to material wealth. You know, you might have a lot of material wealth. You might be able to accumulate a lot of material wealth if you are successful if you wish to do and if you are successful, you might be able to accumulate a lot of material wealth. You might be able to create a lot of honor, a lot of respect, a lot of service from others. And you might be able to, create your life where so many people like you, so many people like you. And then even all of that, if we don't work with our mind, all of this could make you more kind of, feeling self-importance. I must be something special. I must be a good person. I must be something special. I must be because, people like me. Everyone seems to like me. Everyone like me. I must be something more special than others. I might be, or I must be greater than others. To gain all this material wealth, I must be smart. I must be, I must be great because I'm rich and smart and all of that. So that increases, your sense of self-important, arrogant, if you don't really work with your mind. If you don't train your mind, it could make you in that. And so therefore, to not to be attached to them, then you try to, meditate, that all of this, when I die, I cannot carry any of them, I cannot take any of them. I leave everything behind. When I die, I cannot take one penny. No matter how much, I cannot take one penny. No matter how much reputation, respect, how many people like, I leave everything behind. And so, there is nothing I can take but all the negative karma that I've created in relation to accumulating the wealth, in relation to accumulating the honor and trying to impress others to like me, all of that, all the negative karma that I have created, that I will experience result of that after the death, And so therefore, reminding ourselves, there is no reason to create so much negative karma. There's no reason to create so much negative karma in order to accumulate the wealth, the honor, the respect, the fame, and people impressing people and trying to make people like you, all of that. There's no reason to create negative karma to accumulate all of that. And so therefore, and in order to, the reason why we create in such negative karma to accumulate all of that is because of attachment to them. And so therefore, again, letting go of the attachment and not being attached to any of those things. And verse number 18. So if you thoroughly confuse mind by piling up whatever object you are attached to, misery of thousandfold will ensue. So because of our ignorance mind, and due to that ignorance mind, we have a lot of attachments. And due to that attachments, then we try to accumulate, so many different things that we're attached to, whether it's a material things, whether it's a fame, whether it's a reputation, whether it's a praise, so much we try to accumulate all of that due to our attachment and ignorance. And in the process of that accumulating, if you don't create negative karma, that is one thing, but a lot of time when you are trying to accumulate those things, it's very hard to accumulate all of them without creating negative karma, in most ordinary beings, So sometimes we have to cheat others, sometimes we have to lie to others, sometimes we have to, conceit others, deceive others in order to accomplish and accumulate all that we need. And in the process of that, then we create a lot of negative karma. And due to that, we create more negative karma, 1,000 times more than what we are accumulated all these things. And as a result of that, we create the cause for so much more suffering in the futures, so much more suffering in the futures. And so therefore, if you try to compare those two things, what you achieve now and what you will be experiencing, the suffering in the futures, the suffering that you will be experiencing in the future because of all the negative karma that you have created in order to achieve or accumulate what you have accumulated, that is much more, 1,000 times more. And so therefore, when you understand that, then you see there's no reason for me to create more negative karma, and by that to create more suffering in the futures. And so through that, then you try to give up attachments. And when you give up attachments, then when you give up attachments, then you don't need to create negative karma that will create due to that attachments. And then verse number 20, although I may have much material wealth, 19, sorry, I missed that one. Hence, the wise should not be attached. The wise who understand the harmfulness and the shortcoming of the attachments and the benefit of non-attachments, the wise who understand that should not be attached because fear is born from attachments. So, as I mentioned before, if we think in our life, we go through so much fear, worry, anxiety, all the time, so many times, all the time. And one of the reasons why we have all those fear and worry, and the suffering is because of attachments, The more attachment you have, the more fear, worry you have. The less attachment you have, less fear, worry, less suffering you have. And so with that understanding, try not to get attached and let go of attachments. With a firm mind, understand well that it is the nature of those things to be discarded. So by understanding all these object of attachments are something that you will need to give up when you die anyway. You will have to discard it, means you will have to separate or give up anyway by naturally, because they are impermanent. When you die, you will have to leave everything behind, or before you die, some of those things, you lost them, you lose them, Before we die, sometimes our relationship, is gone. We lose that. Our wealth, whatever we accumulated, we might lose them due to whatever reasons. We might, due to natural disasters or due to other things, or, people scamming, stealings, or, due to the loss in business or job, whatever, we could lose all of them, whether it's fame, reputation, we might lose all of them before we die. Even if we don't lose them before we die, we'll definitely be separated and have to discard it when we die. We cannot take any of them And since that is the cases, why be so strongly attached and why try to cling and grab so tightly? That is what attachment does. Attachment is something that you don't want to let it go. You want to hold it, cling it very tightly. When you have attachment, you don't want to separate. You don't want to let it go. You want to cling on that. You want to hold on that. You want to grasp on that. And so here is saying you cannot cling and grasp forever. By nature, it's impermanent. By nature, it's impermanent. It's going to be separated one day. No matter how much you try to hold, cling, grasp very strongly, not to let it go, you cannot do that. You will not be able to do that. One day you will have to let it go. One day it will go away from your grasping, clinging, because by nature it's impermanent. And so therefore, trying to hold on something that you cannot hold, trying to hold, clinging on something you cannot hold, only lead you to misfortunes, And so therefore, with that understanding, that realization, you should let it go from your mind now without holding and clinging and grasping. And that means, letting go of your attachment to them, letting go of attachment to them, not being attached to them. And you let go of attachment by understanding that, that you cannot hold, you cannot cling. By nature, you cannot. It will disintegrate. It will be separated. It will be, decay. It will be discarded by nature, you said one day, with that understanding. And so, again, meditations, on how all these objects of attachments, all the objects of our attachment, the wealth, the praise, the reputation, the fame, the honor, the pleasures, sensory pleasures, all of them, how all of them are unreliable, unstable, how all of them are transitory, impermanent nature. And that being the case, you shouldn't be attached to them. You shouldn't be attached to them. Also, all of them, when you die, you cannot take any of them, and therefore also you shouldn't be attached to them, It's like something like you're borrowing something from someone, When you borrow something from something, you don't get so attached to it. You get it? You don't have strong clinging grasp with it because you will have to give them back. It's momentary, it's a temporary. You just borrow for certain hours, certain days to use, but you don't have same level of attachment, clinging to that because it's just it doesn't belong to me, it belongs to someone else, and it's just temporary, and it is only for a short time. I'm just borrowing it. So similarly, if we can have that similar concept, understanding of that, then again, it can help us to have less attachment. So here, although I may have much material wealth, be famous and well spoken of, whatever fame and renown I have amassed has no power to accompany me after the death. So basically, when we die, we leave everything behind, everything behind. As Buddha said, when we come to the world, everyone comes with empty hand. And when we leave the world, we go, all of us, empty hand. The most rich person in the world and most poor person in the world, when they die similarly. They both go with empty hand. Both of them cannot take any penny, one penny, they cannot take any penny, whatever fame that, whatever, reputations, fame, praise that we might have amassed or accumulated during the time, again, all of them will leave behind. All of them will leave behind, and we start new from the very beginning and next time. When we start next time, we begin from the very beginning. So you cannot take all of them. You just have to leave everything behind. And something that you have to leave everything behind, something you cannot take. Why we get so attached to that? And being so attached to that, why we are willing to create so much negative karma in order to amass them, in order to accumulate them. Why we are willing to hurt and harm others in order to accumulate them, when at the end we just have to leave it behind. If you really think it is, it's a quite, if you really contemplate, it's a crazy. You are willing to hurt someone, you are willing to harm someone, you are willing to, create negative karma, you are willing to not to keep the ethic and all of that. For what? To accumulate all of that, and then at the end that you leave everything behind. Something that you accumulate and everything to leave behind, you are willing to do all of that. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. And so therefore, with that understanding, if you really think deeply, then it is really kind of meaningless. And with that understanding, then we learn not be attached to them, not be attached to them. Without being attached, if the well comes naturally in whatever way, without being so much attached to them, without engaging in so much negative karma to create them, if it comes, then it's not a problem. You can use it to benefit and help others. If the fame, good reputations comes, if you are not attached to it, it's not a big deal. It comes, you can use it for greater purpose, to be more help, benefit your fame, your reputations, all of that. But if you're attached to them, then you cannot use for benefit of others, because you are so attached to yourself. And so therefore, again, so that is and next is meditating on equanimity of the meditating on instead of being attachments to let's say what gain, instead of being attachment to the gain of the wealth or material things, and aversion to the losing the gain. That is what we do now. We're attached to the material gain, and we have aversions to losing of it. We have attachment to, pleasures, and we have a aversion to the unpleasantness. We have attachment to the fame or reputations, and we have aversion to being, unknown, insignificance. We have attachment to the praise, people saying nice things about us, talking nice about us, good things about us. But we have aversion to criticism, people saying, pointing out faults, saying bad about ourselves. And because of those, what we call worldly concerns, which are the attachments, and due to that worldly concern, then we suffer so much in our life. We suffer so much in our life. we suffer so much in our life. The reason why we attach so much in life is due to those eight worldly concerns. Fear of not getting the wealth, fear of losing them, the fear of not having the pleasures and the object of the pleasures, sensitive pleasure and the object of sensitive pleasures, and the fear of encountering unpleasantness, pain, sufferings, the fear of, not getting the fame, good reputations, and the fear of encountering, becoming no one, unknown, insignificance, unimportance, and then the fear of, not getting and losing the praise, pleasant words, nice words, and the fear of encountering criticisms. And so that is what our life is so much, our life is so much driven by those fears, worries, and all of that, those eight worldly concerns. So here, as just as Nagarjuna as also mentions, how to practice the equanimity with that. And if you can practice equanimity with that, then you don't have to suffer so much. You don't have to suffer so much. You don't have to have a strong attachment to the gain. Now you need to have a strong aversion to the lost. No, you need to have a strong attachment to the sensitive pleasure. No, you need to have a strong aversion to the unpleasant feelings. No, you need to have a strong attachment to the fame and reputation. No, you need to have a strong aversion to the becoming a insignificant and unknown, and also with the praise and criticism. So so here he explains some practice meditation. Of course, there are many different practice meditation, and he gives some couple of examples of practice of meditation on dealing with that. If there is someone who despises me, what pleasure can I have being in praise? So basically, he's saying, when someone praises you, someone says nice things about you, someone said good things about you, nice thing, and praise you, you shouldn't be so attached to it. You shouldn't feel too excited. You shouldn't feel too excited, and you shouldn't feel too attached to it. By understanding that even though there is people who are saying nice things about me, all my actions, all my activities, even though there's many people who praise me, say nice things, but there are a lot of people who criticize me. So therefore, I shouldn't be too arrogant. I shouldn't be too self-important. I shouldn't be too arrogant. I shouldn't be too attached to that praise and think I'm more special and so forth, because there are also people who doesn't agree with me, who doesn't think same way this person thinks, doesn't say same thing this person says. So trying to keep yourself more grounded, because just people praise you doesn't allow yourself to be too arrogant and too proud and too and too attached to it. That. And on other hand, if there is another person who praised me, what displeasure can I have in being despised? If someone despises you, someone criticizes you, someone said bad things about you, also you don't need to be so down and say, you shouldn't be so unhappy and think, to depress or to think too negative about yourself, because if even though this person's or that person's all group of persons or whatever, even they criticize, despise me, but there are also a lot of other people who agree with my view, my attitude, who praise, who like that. And so therefore I don't have to be so negative about myself. I don't need to be so unhappy because someone criticizing that. And therefore I shouldn't have so much also aversion towards that. And through that understanding, you try to keep more, again, balance, more equanimity, more balance, whatever criticism or praise, that doesn't change who you are. If you are a good person, you are good persons. Just because someone criticizes, it doesn't become you are bad persons. If you are a bad person, you are a bad person. Because someone's praise you, doesn't mean you have become better persons. It doesn't change. If you are a, wise persons, you are a wise person. Whether someone praise you or criticize, it doesn't change who you are. Just because someone criticizes you, it doesn't mean you become less wise, less knowledgeable. Nor because someone praise you, that it doesn't mean you have become more wise and more knowledgeable. So who you are that. It doesn't change by someone praising or criticizing you, who you are. And so therefore, we shouldn't allow to be too much affected by someone's criticism or praise. That's the key. And unfortunately, in our modern time, a lot of people are so much affected by those. And especially in younger generation, sometimes people take their life because there is so much criticisms on social media or whatever for something they did, something they post. And so because they take it too seriously, we take it too seriously. And because there are some people who criticize you, then you begin to feel everyone's criticizing you. The whole world is criticizing you. The whole world is not agreeing with you. The whole world is against you. Even that is not true. There might be few people, number of people who criticize you, but it's not the whole world. And we have to remind ourselves, even though there are some who criticize, but there are also many who praise, who support. So therefore, that is where, and so that is how we try to, not allow ourselves to get in a negative state of mind by contemplating that there are other people who praise you, who agree with you, who support you. And same on other way around, to keep grounded, even though there might be a lot of people, even thousands and even millions of people who praise you, who say good things about you, nice things about you, but you shouldn't be arrogant. And therefore, you shouldn't be arrogant because of that. Instead, by reminding ourselves, even though those millions of people praise me, there are also lot of people who also does not agree with me or my point or my way of doing, and who criticize. And therefore, I don't need to be so arrogant. And through that, you try to help yourself to be more grounded. And through that, then you try to practice equanimity towards both praise and criticisms. That making sure whether it's criticism or praise, it doesn't affect you in a negative way. And then here in verse number 22, if even the conqueror was unable to please the various inclinations of different beings, then what need to mention of evil persons such as I? Therefore, I should give up intention to associate with worldly. So, sometimes we try to please everyone. And, you know, and you might never be able to please even one person's, fully please even one person's. And it's kind of a waste of time trying to please. Especially when you are really trying to please someone, it's more about yourself, because you want them to like you, because the motivations sometimes is more about ourselves, because I need to please that person, I need to please him or she, because if not, maybe our relation will be bad, maybe he or she will not care about me anymore, because he or she will not like me, so again, it comes through that. And so one thing that we have to, when we try to please in that, it can be exhausting. And that is also attachment, because attachment to people liking you, attachment to the relationship, attachment to different things. And then in order for that to keep those things, then you try to please all the time, not necessarily coming from true love and compassion, but more to maintain and keep those objects that we don't want to lose. And in order to do that, then we feel like we need to please others all the time, and then trying to do that, and even we try to please, it's hard to please everyone, as it says. Even the Buddha couldn't please all sentient beings. Fully enlightened, in from ordinary appearance, Buddha couldn't please his cousin, Devadatta, who was always jealous of the Buddha and competing with the Buddhas all the time. All the time. So, and so therefore, not everyone is going to agree. Not everyone agree with the Buddha during his time. During the Buddha's time, so many people didn't agree with Buddha's message, Buddha's philosophy, Buddha's concepts, Buddha's own practice. No, many people doesn't agree even now. And even our time, if we look someone like His Holiness Dalai Lama, not everyone agree with his philosophy, his spiritual path, his views, whether it's in a spiritual level, whether it's in political levels. Not everyone agree with that. So even himself is unable to please everyone. Those who doesn't agree and who has total opposite view and concept, whether on a spiritual level, whether on political level, some of them are not happy. So who are we to expect everyone to like and agree with us? Do you get it? That is the point. It seems we are okay to say, of course, there are some people who didn't agree with Buddha, continue to disagree, even with His Holiness on many different issues. And it seems just fine. Or we might say, it's a good, more different views, different ideas. It's a good for the society, all of that. But when it comes to us, that is not the case. When it comes to us, then it is like, how dare you don't support me? How dare you don't support me? How dare you don't agree with me? And then we see those different agreements as a take it personal. Someone is against me. Take it personal and think, this person, because he or she doesn't agree with us, then we think this person is against me. He or she is trying to hurt and harm me. He or she is trying to make me unsuccessful. So we have to remind ourselves all the time, if even those enlightened beings, even if those enlightened beings face criticism, even those enlightened beings face challenges, even those enlightened beings, not everyone agree with them and criticize them and all of that, who am I not to expect criticism? Who am I to expect praise all the time? Who am I who to expect support all the time? Who am I to expect everyone to agree with my point of view and my way of thinking and my way of doing? So it can be helpful and beneficial, to that. I myself, when I was, in monasteries, um, trying to help to run the schools, and sometimes, in the meetings, whether it's a board meeting, whether it's the management group meetings, whether it's a meeting between the teachers with the teachers, whether it's between the meeting with the students and teachers, in regard to the running of the education and all of that. Sometimes there is always different views, different ideas. I could present what I feel this is the way to, improve, process, progress, and then there will be some who support that plan, that views, and then there are some who doesn't support, who are against that, and that's a very natural of any organization, any society, as long as there's more than one person's, and even with one person, sometimes there is a disagreement. One moment I think it is good, another moment I think this is not good idea. Even with one person you are fighting in your mind, have a different view, one moment is this is how we should proceed. Next moment, no, maybe this is not the best way. It should be the other way, So forget about two person. Even with one person, we have that challenges. And then of course, when we are more than one person, there is always going to have different opinion, different view, and that. And sometimes again, just like everyone, I'm also another enlightened ordinary being. And sometimes also there are times when I feel, maybe you take a little personal and maybe they are trying to feel like they are not supporting you because they have different opinion and view and then sometimes I remind myself like these verses that we just went through, even the Buddha Shakyamuni, even His Holiness, even those enlightened beings, even they faced those, even they were not able to make everyone agree with their point of views, and even they were unable to please all sentient beings of different kind of predisposition in mind. Who am I to expect? Who am I, as I said, an unenlightened samsaric being, ordinary samsaric being, to expect everyone to agree with me, everyone to be okay with my point of view, who am I to expect everyone to be happy and pleased with my point of views and support that. So I think when I'm able to remind these verses and similar other things, it helped me. It helped my mind not to get crazy and negative, and then see that is what it is. This is this is what is in samsara, within the samsara beings. that including myself. So I think that is, so again, is not having attachment and expectations for everyone to agree with you, everyone to be pleased with you, everyone to be praising you, not being attached and having expectation to that, So then verse number 23, again, is same thing, how ordinary unenlightened sentient beings, due to their unenlightened mind and afflictive emotion delusions, how um, they behave, and act. And that being the case, there's no reason to be so attached to them. There's no reason to be so attached to them. So in next 23, they scorn those who have no material gain and say bad things about those who do. Yeah, that's how we ordinary unenlightened sentient beings, when someone is poor, then a lot of time people tend to put them down, oh, they don't work hard. They don't work hard enough. They are lazy, you know, um, all kind of things, you know. Um, so, or they are not doing well. They are poor. They are this because sometimes they are not working hard enough. They are lazy and they're all kind of things. We try sometimes we put them down in such way. And then also when someone has so much wealth, also we criticize them, you know, oh, they must be rich because they have, broken all the laws, not paying the tax, broken all the loops, they are rich because they didn't pay the tax or they know how to do that because all of that, because they exploited the here poor. And so again, there's a lot of resentment. We can see a lot of resentment towards those big rich people, you know. Poor, we don't have a good regard for those who are poor, who doesn't have. Also, those who are super rich and very rich, also we don't have nice view about them. We have negative thinking and views about them and how they becoming rich and so on. So that is what, and that is the nature of ordinary unenlightened beings. Therefore, how can they, who are by nature so hard to get along with, ever derive any pleasure? Um, hmm, Pleasure from me, and so therefore, there's no way I can make them happy. It's also there's no way I can make them happy. No matter what you do, no matter what, they are not happy. And of course, we are one of those two. He's not saying that we are special and that we are one of them, but also, so all these unenlightened, ordinary sentient beings full of delusions are so difficult to make happy and real happy, to give them really happy. And so that being the case, at this point when I'm unenlightened, I cannot really help them so much. I cannot really, even I want to help, and benefit, there's very little help and benefit, true help and benefit I can do to them. And therefore, instead of being so attached to them, trying to please them when I am unable to, and trying to please them endlessly when I am unable to please them, instead of doing that and getting with attachment in that, trying to please and get distracted. Instead, I should try to keep distant physically and try to, work with my mind to become more enlightened, you know, to become more enlightened. Because the more enlightened I can become, the more greater benefit I can be for them. I can do. When I'm unenlightened myself, I'm just like themselves, and I'm unable to help them and benefit them. And so, therefore, um, instead of trying to please someone by unenlightened being to another unenlightened beings, it's like trying to save someone from drowning by the strong current of the river where both of them cannot swim. Not only you are unable to swim and help the other person save, but you yourself are unable to save. Instead, then similarly, instead then you think, instead of trying to impress, please all the time with this unenlightened being to another unenlightened being, um, instead I should put more focus, more energy, more time to develop myself to become more enlightened. The more enlightened I become, the more greater help and benefit I can do for them. So that is the point where it's saying. And so it is said also, verse number 23, it has been said by the Tathagatas, the Buddhas, in one of the sutras, that one should not befriend the childish. Befriend here meaning physically being too close. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't have love and compassion. The Buddhas always, you should have love and compassion for everyone all the time, especially those who are more negative person, even more, because those who have more negative persons, because they create more negative karma, so therefore they experience more suffering in the future. With that understanding, you must have even more compassion and loving kindness. But sometimes it's better to keep physical distance so that you don't get the negative influence of them, and then also lose the distraction on your path. So that is why, because unless they get their own way, these childish are never happy, and even you try to befriend them and trying to help them, but you are unable to help them. You try to make them happy, but you are unable to make them happy, and so it is some trying to do, yeah, and you are unable to make them unhappy because one, because of their own state of mind, and secondly, we don't have the right skillful means, wisdom, and enough compassion to do that. So that is in one of the sutras called, the Sutra of the Dao Dome, a request by one of the ordained Dao Dome. In that he said, one shouldn't be so physically too close and friendly to the ordinary, such unenlightened, ordinary sentient beings. Even you try to say something virtuous, something meaningful, they wouldn't believe in that. They wouldn't believe in that. And not only they don't believe in that, sometimes they get upset and angry for trying to help them by sharing something virtuous, something positive, something meaningful, and therefore, it's hard to help. It's hard to help. Really meaningful. And even those such childish beings, in that sutra, even you try to befriend for a long time, they can easily turn and become an enemy, and so therefore, again, there's no need to get attached to them. There's no reason to hold so strongly or cling and grab so strongly. Yeah, so that is. So with that, it spoke mostly about the, how to, in order to have the come abiding, we need to find a quiet in physical environment and quiet in mental environment, mentally quiet, so that there is no distraction, busyness. And as we mentioned, the mental distraction and busyness is that when we have too many thoughts, and if you check it, majority or most of thought are resolved from the attachments. Majority of thought are from the attachments. And so therefore, when you reduce the attachments, when you then you are able to reduce many of the thoughts and make your mind less busy and less distracted. As I mentioned, so many thoughts come from attachments, we already discussed. So thereby creating better environment within your mind to reduce the busyness and all those distractions by the thought, and less distractions you have, the more easy to develop the mental concentration, come abiding. And that is more with the inner. Now he is talking about the external conducive environment. External conducive environment, that is more where it is a more quiet place, physically environment. So, and with that, the benefit of that, benefit of relying on the, external environment, conducive, quiet environment, and so the benefit of that. So within that, then the first one, 25. With what kind of associations or companion or the friend that you rely on, that is more conducive. When I shall come to dwell in the forest, okay? So when you are further away from the environment of a lot of peoples, whether you go in isolate or solitude, such as the forest, mountain, and so forth, when you dwell in that, when you try to sit there, place there, dwell there, among the friends among you is the deers, the birds, and the plant, the trees, And when you are in the midst of such company of the deers, the birds, and trees, that's nothing unpleasant and are delightful to associate with. So it is conducive. It doesn't disturb your mind. When you live in a society, people says, oh, this is bad, or this is, one person says this is good, that person says bad, and your mind is so distracted all the time. You hear so many things. That person has done this has done that. This person has said this and that. That person has said that and this. Oh, this person doesn't like you. Or this person is saying bad things about you or your family, your friends. You hear that constantly all the time. You watch the news, there's always that drive you crazy. You read the news, social media, whatever, there's so many things that drive you crazy, your mind crazy. Even you don't listen to the news, you don't read the news, there's already from us, friends, families, so many things. Oh, this has happened to this has happened to that has been. So your mind is disturbed all the time. Your mind is all disturbed time. you know, and therefore it's hard to focus, But when you live in that kind of environment, as described here, the birds, the deers, the trees, they don't come and say, oh, this happened, that happened, and any good thing, bad things. And so you don't have to get disturb your mind. And so if your mind gets undisturbed, you can focus better. And you have less distractions due to all of that, you know. And in terms of the place, you know, the conducive place is, then in those forests and the mountains, when dwelling in such as caves, it could be cave, where there's a natural cave or where there's man-made caves, or in empty shrines, where there's no one, or empty house shrine, or under the tree, at the feet of trees, and you just meditate and contemplate in those places, in such places. Those are conducive places. No one to disturb you, no one to bother you. And since there's no one to disturb and bother you, your mind is not disturbed and bothered. And so then there's less distractions. And less distraction, you are able to focus better. And, and when you are able to focus better with less distractions, you have more chance of achieving karma abiding more quickly, more easily. And never look back, cultivate detachments, and never looking back to get engaged in that busyness, that busyness of worldly business life. And, by cultivating detached, by seeing, there's no reason to get attached to all these, friends, families, other beings. There's no reason to get attached to all the material things. There's no reason to get attached to all this fame, reputations, praise, and all of that, So with that understanding, with certain meditation practice, you cultivate detachments. And without detachments, your mind will be more peace, calm, joy, where you are. And your mind is detached, your mind is more satisfied, more content, more peaceful, and less distractions, And then when you meditate, when you practice, then the meditation practice becomes much more powerful, effective. Yeah. And such places, verse number 27, when shall I sum to do in place, not cling to as mine, which are by nature wide and open, and where I may behave as I wish without attachments, and then again explaining the conduciveness of such place, Also, sometimes you can still get attached to even such place, my caves, my forests, my trees, but again, you learn not to get attached to them, Of course, it's less, generally speaking, it is the object by itself is less possibly attached than your house. If you have a house, the attachment is much more stronger, whereas like in a natural, in a forest, something you might have less attached to all of them, so that one. And then in terms of when you are in such a, vast, open, wide spaces where you can look, so that is very conducive, helpful for your meditation, your mind to be more broad and calming. It has, when you have that vast vastness when you look, instead of being almost like narrow in something. So sometimes that helps for certain individuals. Meditation, that kind of environment is more conducive. So without, attachments and clinging, that saying this is mine, without that kind of attachment to the place, without, and then, you try to practice, meditate as you wish without attachments. When we live in busy worldly life, even you want to meditate, even you wish to meditate, you don't have that options a lot of time. When you try to meditate and then, your family, one of family members, friends says that, can you come here? I need here. Honey, can you make a coffee for me? Sweetie, we need to go outside. Let's go to a movie, So we need to take care of that, and so on. So then, even you wish to do meditation, you have no choice. You have those responsibility and those things, and so it's hard. It's hard to say no. It's hard to say, I want to do meditations. I wish to meditation, and I cannot join you, or I cannot do that. So and so then even you had this, even you had the interest and inspiration to really meditate more, work more, is much more harder in such environment. And so therefore, in the environment that is described here is much more easy. You can meditate as much as you want, as many sessions as you want, without being disturbed, without of that. And so, and then next time, in terms of what livelihood that you rely on, 28. When shall I come to live without fear, having just begging bowl, begging bowls or small bowls, and few odd things, very necessary things, such as clothes, and even clothes, you don't need something fancy as long as it helps to keep you warm in the cold and so forth. Wearing clothes that not wanted by anyone, and not even having to hide these bodies, So when you are in that, you don't have to worry about so many things at the moment. When we live in this kind of busy worldly life, we have to worry today, what should I wear? In this party, what should I wear? When I go to dinner, what should I wear? Which clothes will suit me? Which clothes will look better? All these things, so much. Our closet is full of so many clothes. Probably we wear only 1 or 2 times. And so again, all these things, that we need to. And so you don't have to worry all of that, how you look, how people will think of you. You don't have to worry. If I don't dress up well, people might, look at me in certain way. People might think me in certain way. People might judge me in certain way. If I don't dress up well, if I don't clean myself, and if I don't take something, and so many, all this unnecessary. You don't have to do any of that. You don't have to worry any of that. So your mind is so free from all this worry, all this fear. And your mind is all worry, free from this fear and worry and busyness of all of that. Then again, you have more time, and it is more conducive for your mind to be able to meditate. And when you meditate, to be able to go in the deep meditation immediately, Because normally in our busy life, when you try to meditate, because there's so much thought, it takes time before you can really concentrate. You have to, to kind of quiet those busy mind, you know, it takes time for us to be able to go in a deeper um, and to the meditation and to be able to concentrate better, Hmm? And then in terms of awareness, what kind of awareness, so then one of the meditations, one of the meditation to overcome attachment is meditation on impermanent and especially death impermanence. So then here there are quite few of meditation on that. Having departed to the cemeteries, so sometimes you go to the cemeteries, or sometimes places where there is dead bodies of animals, whatever, where there is dead bodies, you know, um, and then you look at those things, when shall I come to understand that this body of mine and the skeleton of others are equal in being subject to decay? And when you see, the dead bodies of the animal, dead body of human beings, or whatever remaining of that human beings or animals, the skeleton, the bones, whatever remaining of them, you see at one time, this was another human being just like myself, who has body like myself. This was the one time another sentient beings, another animals who has a certain body and able to, and now what is remains just a decay of that, nothing else. Not only they, reminding also one day I myself, my body will also decay. One day I'm not different from them. I'm not different from them. My body is not different from them. Not only their body decay, also my body will decay. Also my body, which I'm so cherishing now, to whom I so much attachment to that, this body will be just become like this skeleton, this bone one day. When you look at that bone, when you look at that remaining of the animal or human being, you don't get attached to that. You don't get attached to that. So same way, you remind ourselves, one day my body, why should I be so attached to my body, my appearance, the way I look, because so attached to my appearance and my body. Because one day, the nature of my body is same as this. One day it will decay and it will become like that. And through that, then we learn not to be even attached to our own body, our own appearances. Okay, I think I'm going to stop here for today. Any questions? I think I might have seen. Okay, here. Could you kindly explain, isn't it the self that we are most attached to? Me, self, I. Most dear one is the self, and we fear of losing it. I, self. Yes, sure. That is why in Buddhism we talk about self-grasping is the root of everything. So self-grasping, ignorance, is the root of attachment, is the root of anger. And through anger and attachment, then many other afflictive emotions, and many afflictive emotions, and that comes. So definitely, it's the self-grasping is the key. And I think here at the moment, Shantideva doesn't talk so much about the self-grasping in this particular chapter, because he will discuss more depthly in the chapter 9 when he talks about the wisdom part. Then he will talk more on that. He will touch more on that, more depth. So here, so here he doesn't go so much details or talk much about that, self-grasp and ignorance, which is the root of all the other afflictive emotions. But here, he talked more about, the obvious distracting mind. The obvious distracting mind at the moment, even though it's rooted in the ignorance, but the obvious distracting mind is the attachments, and then the fear, the worry that come due to the attachment. So because of that, he's talking more about that in relation to this distraction for the meditations. Then next one, could you please explain effective way how to reduce attachment in our physical body? Well, I think we just now, it just came now. It's one of the meditation, it just came that here. He just, Shantideva just explained it. And, I think, there's more meditation on that. So starting from here, that he will go tomorrow, that he talk more about specifically. So after we spoke about attachment to other people's, we talked about attachment to the material gains, material things, fame, reputation, praise, and now he's talking about attachment to your own body and how to overcome that attachment through different meditation and practice. And so he just came to the point where he just is starting the particular meditation on to let go or to reduce the attachment to our body. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, go ahead, Marjorie.
Geshe, renunciation is sometimes translated as definite emergence. And I'm wondering, does that mean emergence from samsara or emergence from attachment, or does it depend on the context? Like, I think, is that
literally it means from the samsara. Okay, from the samsara. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then when we say from the samsara, what does that mean? It means not being attached to the samsara, not being attached to the samsara,
Okay, thank you.
So not only not being attached to one specific, but the whole samsara and all the samsaric prosperity, samsaric excellence, samsaric pleasure, not being attached to any of those. Yeah. Even the highest level of samsaric pleasure, even the highest level of samsaric prosperity, even the highest level of samsaric excellence, not being attached to them. Yeah. Any others?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, please.
So I've read somewhere, and I can't remember where, that some bodhisattvas maintain a degree of attachment to sentient beings. And I'm guessing it's because that helps them to take rebirth. But so can you talk about why it would be that some bodhisattvas, I mean, is that right, or is there more to it? Are you familiar with that quote or that?
Yeah. Well, sometimes desire or attachments, sometimes we might use some same terms in different practice, but sometimes they might be slightly different.
Okay.
For example, in Tandiri, we talk about taking the desire, the anger, the ignorance in the path, but sometimes they don't necessarily mean the same desire, same, like wrathful aspect will be more like anger. It's not the true, like real anger that we're talking about when they talk about taking the anger into the path, and same thing, desire is, kind of the bliss through certain meditation technique that you develop bliss, and through that bliss, then you try to have access to the clear right mind that
Mm.
And that meditate on the emptiness.
Mm.
And so also in a sutra, they talk about the bodhisattvas using the I think you see in the lojong, like different lojongs, they give the example like a peacock and the bodhisattvas. The peacock eat the poisons, but it is not poison for them. If the same things crow eat it, it can be poison for that crow, it dies. And same thing, so they give the desire. The bodhisattva can transform that into something like medicine, like a peacock. And then we ordinary beings become like poisons. So there is that kind of example given. And then also there are many other different they talk about. So in that, they talk about desire as, similarly that, desire is not necessarily the attachment that we talk about, the same attachment that has clinging and grasping, craving, but is more of that, they talk about the bodhisattva producing in order to help and benefit, many children's through the desires. So again, using that desire as not something like uncontrollable desire like we had, but something that they have control over it and they use it to that energies to produce many sons, daughters, and children to to help and benefit sentient beings. So that is one way of how they explain how they use the desire. So that is that kind of desire or attachment, not just exactly same way. At the moment, our attachment, when you talk about attachment, is uncontrollable. But in their cases, it is something that they have control over that. And they use that energy. They use that energy for better high purpose in that way.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is all. Yeah. Any other questions? If not, then we do the dedication prayers.
Okay.
May all beings everywhere plagued by the suffering of body and the mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtues of my merit. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depressions. May the blind see form and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicine be effective and wholesome prayer bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever disease they are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. His Holiness the Lama's long life prayer, protector of the beings and the teaching in the land of snow, who make the path that unified emptiness and compassion even more clear. To Tenzin Gyatso, holder of the lotus, I make request, may the aim of your wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. And pray for swift return of Lama Sopa Rinpoche by His own Dalai Lama. fearless teachers and assembly of the children of the victorious one, Savaka and Pratika Buddhas, victorious Losang Father and Son, along with the lineage master, of the object of refuge of infinite land. Please bestow the virtues and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading Muni's precious and complete teaching through the explanation and practice, you award the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for modest living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessing of the ocean of 3 Junes and the great waves of bodhisattva of children of the victorious one, may the smile of reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining today, and hope to see you tomorrow. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you, Geshe, so very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining us.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
tomorrow
Yeah.
we'll be back again at 10.
Ciao, adios.
Adios.
Hi, Julio.
Bye.